All right, there we go. It says we are live. So we are coming to you on Facebook and YouTube both. Hello, everybody. I know that it takes just a little bit of time sometimes for these notifications to go out to everybody across social media. So we'll give everybody just a little bit of time to get joined in here. I see that there are already quite a few people over on the YouTube side who have joined us, and a few coming in now on Facebook as well. So that is awesome. Thank you everybody for joining us. I do want to say real quick, a couple things before we get into this. If you are already a Nebraska Firearms Owners Association member, then thank you for your membership. We appreciate you. If you're not, especially if you are a Nebraskan, you owe it to yourself, your neighbors, and your friends and relatives that live in Nebraska as well. Go join our organization. There are no dues to become a member, and there never will be. So go to nebraskafirearms.org and join up with NFOA. We would love to have you helping us out a little bit. So thank you for that. Also, if you're out there and you want to leave some comments, please do. The comments I'm going to be leaving just in the chat where they are tonight. As far as the questions, I'll do my best to field questions as we go along tonight, but they will only be questions that are pertinent to whatever we're talking about. And I know sometimes comments and questions get lost in the shuffle, but sometimes that's just what happens when we go live. We'll do our best, I promise, to keep everything relevant to what we're talking about. So, all right, it looks like we've got quite a few people joining us. So I know we're out there now. We're going to go ahead and just welcome everybody to the next virtual town hall meeting or online town hall meeting here for Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. Real quick, I want to say hello to the folks that are on the screen with me. Again, we'll just go ladies first. So we've got our president of NFOA, Patricia Harold, joining us. How are you doing, Trish?
Good evening, everyone. Glad you could all make it.
Glad to have you here as well. All right. And then, of course, we've got our Director of Legislative Affairs, Keith Kalash, has joined us as well. How are things going tonight, Keith?
Pretty good. Kind of excited for tonight.
Me too. I can't wait. And we've got some special guests that we didn't have last time. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We'll get right to that as quickly as we can here. All right. So real quick, what we're here to do is just discuss some of the bills that are coming up, and two of these bills are coming up before the committee this week. So Trish, real quick, do you just want to kind of fill everybody in on what's happening this week on Wednesday the 24th?
Okay, so Wednesday the 24th, we have a significant bill being heard in the Government, Military and Veteran Affairs Committee, LB 188, which is the Second Amendment Preservation Act, sponsored by Senator Steve Halloran, as well as several other Second Amendment friendly senators, those who really take their oath of office seriously, which are the type we actually really love to support. The next bill that's on the calendar, I'm going to bring that up because I have my little cheat sheet because there's so much stuff going on, which I sent to you earlier, John. So I don't know if you want to back me up on that email. You'll have it in the one I sent you. So let me go to that real quick. Gotta love it when you need multiple screens in order to do an online town hall.
Well, I tell you what, these things are too important to get them mixed up. So please, everybody, just bear with us. We want to make sure we're giving you the correct information first.
The other thing that's really nice is just how not easy to navigate our websites are for finding what's happening in the state capitol. Half our job is providing our members support on how to find information. And some committees do a much better job than others. I would say that I really appreciate the level of effort that the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee does, because it does make it easier. And then we have LB 236 from Senator Brewer. This one's exciting. This one would permit counties to authorize carrying concealed weapons as prescribed. So these are two really, really important bills that will be heard February 24th. March 3rd, we'll have several other bills, which is why we've called it NFOA Day at the Capitol, starting in the Judiciary Committee at 9:30. There's Senator McCollister's bill, which basically is a mandatory waiting period. We have several bills in support of concealed carry, weapon permit holders. And we, of course, have another bill to authorize possession of a firearm on school grounds by full-time off-duty law enforcement. That's also supported by Senator Halloran. And then we have LB 300, which is a huge bill with regards to changing provisions in our statutes with regards to castle doctrine and justification for use of force. And then we have some great ones from Senator Balsaman on the concealed handgun permit, notice of expiration, and Senator Clements has a permit renewal provision for CHP. So we have a lot of good 2A bills that we're going to learn about this evening.
Yeah, very, very, very important stuff going on. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and jump in here. We've got several of our state senators waiting in our virtual green room here to join us on screen tonight, and we've got a couple things that we're going to ask each senator in turn. So we're going to ask about each one of them gets to talk about the bills that they have introduced. But we're going to ask three different things. First thing that we're going to ask is why the bill is important to Nebraskans. Second thing we're going to ask is how Nebraskans can help get the bill passed through the committee and out to the Senate floor for a vote. And then the last thing that we're going to ask, and this is important, is if any of our residents want to get in touch with the senator, how do they do that? And the reason that I say that is because we don't have the time to go through a question and answer session with each senator tonight. I wish we did, but in the interest of keeping everything succinct, we're not going to do that. So please just bear with us. And if you want to reach out to each senator, then we will make sure that you know how to do that. So first off in here, and we're just bringing everybody in the way that they logged in. It seemed like the most fair way to do this. So first up, we have Senator Halloran is going to be joining us, and he actually has introduced two of the bills that we're going to be discussing within the next couple weeks. So let's bring Senator Halloran on screen, and there he is. And Trish, I will just let you go ahead and ask those questions of Senator Halloran. Senator, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me, and I apologize for my low-budget studio I'm in. The lighting, it's probably best I don't have good lighting.
Well, truth be told, I tried to keep her off screen, but my dog just managed to open up the door and come into my office. So she's 4-month-old golden retriever puppy. So I'm sorry I was distracted there for a second, everybody. All right, Trish, I will let you go ahead and ask Senator Halloran about the bills that he's introduced.
Senator Halloran, so first and foremost, thank you for your service in our state capitol and representing the people of Nebraska, especially for your district. Of everyone's interest is LB 188, the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Can you tell us more about what was your foundational thinking to bringing that bill forward in order to protect the rights and freedoms of Nebraskans?
Well, I would like to say I was being very creative, right? But truth be told, a lot of senators do like I do, and they research what other states have done on specific issues, and this one's been an important issue for me and the senators that you have on this evening, and that's preservation of our constitutional rights, particularly involving protection of the Second Amendment, right? So Missouri passed a bill dealing with the same issue. This is LB 188. We refer to it as the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Some would refer to it as a sanctuary state, right? And its intent is for to disallow for the federal government to use any of the state agencies, law enforcement agencies, be it state patrol, sheriff, police, in the enforcement of any federal regulation or statutes that go contrary to our state constitution or our state laws regarding Second Amendment rights.
So for those of us who are pro-Second Amendment and pro-constitutionalists, that is probably the most common sense gun legislation I've heard of.
Well, again, I wished I could claim credit for being that creative with it. But I think it's something that a lot of people are becoming more and more. Well, we've all been nervous about our Second Amendment right being taken away from us, but with this new administration, I think it's more of a legitimate concern than it is just a fear, right?
Correct.
And so, this law, and we've had tremendous response from the public on this. Over several hundred emails in support of it. And the important thing is, is not necessarily to call me. I'm the sponsor of the bill, and we got a lot of co-sponsors on it. It's not so important to call us, but it's important to call those that are on the Judiciary Committee, and you can find those names on the Nebraska Legislature website, and to contact them with your polite support for this bill and your genuine concern for it. So,
right. Well, and that's a perfect segue to our next question is many of us in Nebraska realize that we're really our own representatives. You know, we have our senators who we elect to represent us at the unicameral, but really we are our own representatives. And so we're the first house in some ways, or the second house, but we're definitely part of the house. And making our voice heard is really so important because so many of us take for granted that those we elect are going to represent us and really know where we as Nebraskans feel on any given issue. So you were saying that probably the best way for our members and Nebraskans at large who want to share their support for LB 188, it's to actually email and call members of the Judiciary Committee, because those are the people who are going to be at the hearing and they're going to be responsible for voting it in or out of committee. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the first hurdle to get it to the floor, is to get it through committee, right? The Judiciary Committee historically has been a very, as you all know, has been a very, very tough bill to get any kind of noteworthy legislation to the floor dealing with our Second Amendment rights in a positive fashion, at least. I think if you go to the legislature website and you search the bill, any bill, but in this case LB 188, I believe there's a link there that will take you directly to an email format or to a kind of a text message format that will allow you to make comments about the bill, and that's important. That's very helpful, and it allows you to put down your address so that there's information to the senators so that they know some of these folks are coming from their district, and that's who they listen to the most, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then backing up to what you were saying a few minutes ago, I don't want to take your time, but you all are commonly referred to as the second house. I don't call you the second house. You're the first house. The unicameral is the second house.
Well, thank you, Senator. We appreciate that very much. We feel like we are, for sure.
Yeah.
The next bill that we wanted to discuss with you is actually going to be heard March 3rd. And that's LB 417, which would authorize the possession of a firearm on school grounds by law enforcement who are simply off duty. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, your basic description is what it is. In the past, I've tried to get through legislation that would allow for school boards and school administrators to authorize anyone who has a concealed carry under the employ of that school, after they've been vetted by the school board and the administration, to be able to conceal carry on the school property for the defense of the school, right? Well, that's been an uphill battle. This bill is maybe the next step from that, and that is to allow off-duty officers, as you said, to be able to carry their issued firearm at school events, where normally all firearms are prohibited, right? So this would allow them, those law enforcement officers who are more than adequately trained on the safety and use of firearms, to be able to carry them at school events, sporting events, whatever they might be. I think it's a common sense approach. We're not allowing people that don't have an understanding of firearms and have been trained to use them properly. And I think there's been a lot of positive response, and I think this one has a very good chance of making it to the floor for debate.
I think it does too. And really what's really interesting, it will be fascinating to us to hear the testimony that is against this bill.
Right.
We find it really interesting how many of those in the community who are anti-firearm kind of talk out of two sides of their mouth. They're all about the law enforcement being the ones who are responsible and trained and assigned the responsibility of keeping us all safe. And thus we don't need to have arms ourselves because we have this, infrastructure in place to protect us. And yet when we want to advance their ability to keep us safe, they're all against it. So it's really going to be interesting to hear what they have to say during the hearing. I always enjoy listening to their arguments.
It will be, and I need to add something I left out. Law enforcement has asked me to make this bill concealed carry for them. They don't want the open carrying on the campus because we all know some people tend to be spooked relatively easily, and even though they might know that person's law enforcement officer, they would just prefer some anonymity, but to be able to carry that concealed weapon in the case they might need it.
Sure, that makes sense. And that's one of the wonderful things about working with our elected officials, both NFOA and as just simple citizens, whether you're just an individual or you represent a group, is we welcome the fact that our senators are really open-minded to listening to our points of view, and many pieces of legislation have been amended through good testimony at these hearings. And so it's really important for all of our members and Nebraskans in general to feel empowered to provide input to our elected officials. These people are human beings. They're just as normal as we are, and they're always willing to listen.
Yeah, and we're as flawed as you all are.
Great. Well, Senator Halloran, thank you so much for your time this evening to share with us about LB 188, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and the bill to provide law enforcement an opportunity to conceal carry while on campus on school property. We look forward to seeing you during the hearing, both on February 24th and March 3rd. We'll be there to support you, sir.
I appreciate it. And thanks for the invite.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Senator Halloran. And I didn't mention this earlier, and I do apologize. Senator Halloran, you represent District 33. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
right.
The Hastings, Nebraska area generally.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. We will go ahead and pull you off of the screen. And the next senator who had logged in order here was Senator Rob Clements. And I will get this right this time. Senator Clements represents District 2 here in Nebraska. So let's go ahead and bring him on the screen. Senator, how are you tonight?
I'm fine. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine.
All right.
Perfectly. All right.
Just love to let the people know that District 2 is all of Cass County, which is Plattsmouth. I live in Elmwood. Then southern Sarpy, the Springfield area, and I have about a fourth of Nebraska City, and that's where I am east of Lincoln.
Very good. All right. So, Keith, I will let you go ahead and converse with Senator Clements here. And it's the same three questions that we're asking of all the senators. So there's no curveballs coming tonight. And again, I just want to reiterate out there in the chat in the live comment section, we are not going to have time for Q&A with each senator. So that's why the third question is, how can the senators be reached? And if there's anything that you want to ask them about these bills or anything else, then please follow up with the senators or their staff, because we just don't have the time to do that with everybody. We're going to keep this rolling along. So, Keith, I will give you the floor.
All right. Well, Senator, we're just going to jump in. One of the ones that I've got for you as far as being the sponsor for is LB 244. Seems like a pretty straightforward one. That's just to amend the statutes to change the renewal provisions for the concealed carry. And as far as the questions, let me get to those. If you could just tell us why that bill is important for Nebraskans.
I've had some constituents who wrote to me and said, hey, I missed my concealed carry renewal by a week. And I went in and wanted to just get it reinstated. And they said, nope, you got to take the class again, pay the $150 or so to take a class and all the application part of it. And so I was thinking, why don't we give them a 30-day grace period? Now, if you look at your permit, right under your name, under your picture, it'll show your expiration. You can see mine expires in about 2 more years. And everybody that's got one, you ought to take a look at that. But right now, if you don't catch that date and renew it, you'll have to go through a lot more headaches taking the class again. And so I thought, on your driver's license, if it expires, all you do is go in and just pay your renewal and you're good to go. But on this concealed carry, it's no good at all. Well, my bill would give you 30 days to catch that. During that 30 days, your permit is not any good, just like your driver's license is not after expiration. But they could go back and reinstate it as of the expiration date. And I've just had some people with that problem. I had one guy went in on the last day to the state patrol office in Omaha. They were closed because of COVID that day. And he went back when they were open and they said, sorry, you could have driven to Lincoln or Grand Island. Anyway, hopefully this is pretty common sense, being more like the driver's license is. And I'm hoping to get it through.
Well, Senator, as somebody who's had to retake the class 3 times because I missed my date to renew, I really do appreciate this bill. Save me a little bit of cost on renewal and retaking the class. So, yeah. And again, same question. As far as helping to get this bill out of committee, what would you like to see us do?
I think, well, the legislature has come up with a method called a position letter that you can write that will make it part of the record. And each committee has a position letter email. Judiciary is judpl@leg.ne.gov. And that, if you send that email at least a day ahead of the hearing, you can make it a part of the official record. Then the individual senators, Senator Lathrop, Brandt, DeBoer, Geist, McKinney, Moorfield, Pansy Brooks, and Slama, those 8 are who you want to send an email to about this bill. The rest of us who are not on the committee, we wouldn't have any input on the bill really until it gets out of committee to the floor. And if it gets out to the floor, then you would email all senators.
Okay. And that does seem to be the most important thing, is to just get it out of committee. That seems to be the biggest obstacle for a lot of the bills that we're in favor of. But this one does seem like a pretty straightforward, common sense, using the common sense, I guess, terminology. Seems pretty straightforward, but again, we need to make sure we're supporting it and reaching out to everyone. And as far as reaching out to the senators, is email the best way to do that?
Yes, email is definitely my preference, and I think most of us it is. If you call my office, I won't answer the phone, and my aide will answer the phone and write it on a piece of paper, and that piece of paper could get lost. But email, I read all my emails every day, and I think most senators do. And so I would suggest that. You can, if you have questions, then you can email me, rclements, RCLEMENTS @leg.ne.gov.
All right. Senator, I'm looking through my notes here. Was that the, I think for the bills that we have that we're interested in, I think that was the only one that you were the main sponsor of?
Yes, LB 244 is the one I introduced. I can't remember if I signed on to some others, but I'll definitely support the other ones if they get to the floor. And, we had a big concern last summer with the anti-police sentiment in the country. We didn't want to just be on defense, defending gun rights. We wanted to be on offense this year. We had a conservative senator decided, hey, let's put in some pro-gun bills and make somebody else be on defense. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, we appreciate that strategy very much. It is a bit of refreshing fresh air.
Yep, very much. All right. Well, Senator, thank you very much for giving us a portion of your evening. And we will go ahead and let you have your time to yourself now. We're going to go ahead and pull Senator Clements back off the screen. Thank you for joining us tonight, though.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you for everything that you're doing for us as Nebraskans, and especially as Nebraska gun owners. All right. So we will do that. All right. Next up, we have got the senator from District 23. We've got Senator Bruce Bostelman is joining us tonight. And he has introduced LB 85, which is, do I have that right?
Yep.
Okay. LB 85. And that is, it kind of goes hand in hand, actually, with what we were just discussing. This is a bill that would require the State Patrol to provide notice of expiration of concealed handgun permits. So you'd actually, just like you do with your driver's license or your vehicle registration, you get a letter from the courthouse saying that, hey, this is coming due. And we don't get that, as Keith can attest to from what he said. And I just want to thank Senator Bostelman when I bring you on screen here. There we are. I want to thank you for introducing this, because had I not seen this, I probably wouldn't have paid attention to my own permit, which is expiring in May. So because of this bill, I looked at it and I've got my renewal submitted already. But so just the fact that we're talking about this really helps. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure. Thanks, John.
All right. So, Trish, we're going to let you speak with Senator Bostelman about LB 85.
So, Senator Bostelman, what was the inspiration for bringing such a common sense piece of gun legislation to the floor?
Well, I think we've already heard both from Keith and John what it was 5 years is a long time to remember. It's easy to forget. So, you know what we actually do on a lot of other driver's licenses, that we send out a notice, and you can renew your concealed carry permit 4 months in advance. So that's where we're going to start at, is to request that to be sent out 4 months in advance as a reminder, one-time reminder, it's coming up.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about the fact that this year will be an interesting year when we testify in the Judiciary Committee. We will no longer have to face some of the interesting questions and counter arguments of Senator Ernie Chambers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that being in the committee during these discussions of firearms bills are going to be any easier, because that composition of the committee is a challenge to overcome. But again, I was trying to think of one of the ways that we strategize in preparation for these hearings is to think about what the antis would say about this bill. And all I can remember is Senator Chambers telling me that I was very privileged as a gun owner, and that I expected to be treated as if I was a special type of citizen. When what we're really asking for is that any citizen who happens to have a concealed carry permit simply get notified, so they don't have to go to class and spend the money that it takes to get that renewal done. Because those that it affects most are not folks like Keith or myself. It's the people who necessarily can't afford to take another class, right? Or pay the $100 fee that it takes to get a permit redone. So thinking about that, that's really an important message to share about your bill, is it's a cost savings to Nebraskans who are their own first responders. So I commend this very much.
Yeah, you know, another thing to think of that too, it's less time for our state troopers as well. So you have to go in, fingerprinted, they send it off. So you're taking a lot of their time up as well. So we're saving them time and resources with that as well. I do have a couple of things I want to say about the Judiciary Committee, but I can save those in a second here if you like, but more on the testimony end of it.
Okay. So with regards to the folks that are coming out that day for the hearing, what are some of the best ways that we can support you and support this bill?
Sure. So what Senator Clement said just a minute ago was very pertinent and is accurate. But you need to remember with the Judiciary Committee, the important thing here is you only have 30 minutes for all of your testifiers in support. Then you'll have 30 minutes for those in opposition. So what does that mean to you as testifiers? That means you're going to get maybe 4 or 5 people to testify 3 minutes. You're not going to get 5 minutes, you're going to get 3 minutes. So if you can come in together and kind of strategize your message so that you're not saying the same thing, but you have a complete message you want to get out over, say, 4 people, that would be really important to really strike, that message strong that way. And that helps us. I can tell you as a committee member listening to testimony, when I hear about the 3rd, 4th, 5th person come up and say the exact same thing, it doesn't do a whole lot of good in a sense. Let's get new information. So on that end of it, the testifiers, you can come in and do written testimony. Rob didn't mention that. So between 8:30 and 9:30 the morning of the hearing, you can come in and present written testimony and hand it in, and then that will be included in the record as written testimony. Your other best option is your position letter to do that. Those are the key things. But with the Judiciary Committee, really people need to understand you're really limited on the time you're going to have, and you just need to make the best of it. Really strategize. If you could have a few people, come together with a plan and have 3 or 4 of you, 5 of you ready to go, that's probably your best.
Got it. So one of the things that people can do, if I remember correctly, is that they can bring a copy if they are going to testify in person. Bring a copy for each committee member of their testimony. Is that something that committee members will still be able to receive if someone brings what might be a more robust piece of testimony, but maybe only want to hit 1 or 2 points verbally during the hearing? Is that an option that their full message could be heard at least in written format?
Yeah, I'll defer if Senator Salama is still on. She can answer that since she's on the committee. In my committees that I'm in and that I chair, yes, you can do that. I'm not so sure on judiciary. I would ask her.
Definitely someone remind me to ask that question. That's an important question.
Will do.
The biggest concern that people in Nebraska have with regards to the way the Judiciary Committee is being ran is it's really limiting people's voices and runs contrary to the way our unicameral system is comprised and made to be. And so that's really concerning because it's almost as if they just really don't want to do their job, whoever created these committee rules.
I will speak to that just a minute if you don't mind. This is not something new. In previous Judiciary Committee chairs in previous years, going back some time, this is a policy or guidelines that they use. But I do share your concern in the sense that not everyone, this is really the opportunity for people to be heard. If you had 300 or 400 people out there, okay, that might be something you want to limit. But if, in my committee, if it's going to take us 2, 3, 4 hours to get through a hearing, we're going to take the time and make sure we hear the people. So especially when you get people that travel across the state, you get people that's coming in from Gordon or Scottsbluff or Chadron or McCook, whatever, you really should be able to hear them. And I want to hear them. So, but that's the decision of the chair of the committee too.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Senator. Thank you so much.
Sure.
On that note, we obviously know that they can contact you through the website that you have on the Nebraska Legislature's website. You can find Senator Bosselman's information there, as well as all the members of the Judiciary Committee as well, especially given the fact that there are going to be some constraints to verbal testimony. It's best to get your message on the record and do so using the online tools that the unicameral has put forward for us.
Definitely. Yep.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right. And yes, thank you very much for your time, Senator. We will go ahead and pull you back off of the screen. All right. And next up, we're going to speak with Senator Tom Brewer from District 43. And Senator Brewer has introduced LB 236, that's one of the two bills that will be heard this week on Wednesday, the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. That one is also going before the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee. So let's bring Senator Brewer on screen. And Senator, I just want to say a special welcome from me. I am a native Kippahaw County resident. My dad still ranches east of Springview, so he is in your district up there in north central Nebraska. So thank you for representing him.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, you're on the east end, and if you go to the west end, you're almost to the Wyoming border. So you got 13 counties.
Pretty much, yes. You've got a large area of ground to cover. So that can't be easy to get to all your constituents in a timely fashion. So no, thank you for everything that you're doing up there. So Keith, we will let you have some time here now to discuss these things with Senator Brewer.
All right, Senator, and just to clarify, I think you said that this was 236 was going in front of the government committee. I believe it's actually a judiciary committee that it's going in front of.
Did I get that one wrong?
Just to clarify.
I thought it was going before the government committee. Is it going before judiciary?
No, it's going to the government. It's the second bill for February 24th in the Government, Military, and Veteran Affairs. They had tried to put it in judiciary and it got put back where it needed to be.
Oh, that's what happened to it. Yeah, the paperwork I had judiciary on it originally, so and it makes more sense in that one.
We did have to fight. The exec board made a judgment call and moved it over to government, and it's sadly I don't know that we gained a lot of ground there because of the setup of the committees, and we can talk about that later. But we got a 4-4 split in the government committee, which is better than judiciary, I guess. But it brings everything to a halt, and we're going to have to figure out how to persuade either Blood, Hunt, Matt Hansen, or McAllister to vote in favor of this, or we're going to have to figure out a way to pull it to the floor. And I believe that committee has been designed that way. They wanted to keep everything out that was good. And, it's the fight we have every day in the body.
Well, Senator, if you could just maybe explain what LB 236 is. It's basically, from what I understand, to allow counties to decide if they want to do constitutional carry for people in that county. Is that fairly accurate, or if you could maybe explain it a little better than I could?
Okay, well, you're close. But to understand this, you need to understand a little bit of history. And we've had a couple of bills that deal with gun ordinances and preemption. One was LB 289, which was Laura Epke's back in 2015, and LB 68, which was Mike Hilger's, and that was back in 2017. And the anti-gun folks took us to the court on that one, and they beat us in the end. And they used local control as a reason why. And they brought in all the Sarpy County and Douglas County and Lancaster County officials and talked about how horrible this would be. And of course, that had to do with, being able to take and increase the requirements for, say, concealed carry in Lincoln and Omaha. So you didn't have a valid concealed carry anymore, depending on where you were. Well, what good does it do? That's like saying your driver's license doesn't work in those towns because they want to make new rules. So we decided, you want to play that game and you want to shove that down our throats on local control. We're going to make it all about local control, and then we're going to see how you behave. So that's what this bill is about. It simply says that counties can authorize concealed carry of weapons. And keep in mind, that's both guns and knives. And you can be charged with carrying a concealed weapon just for having a knife more than 3.5 inches. So, it's good legislation. It gives local control to the counties. And we'll see how folks come out on this. But, I think the crazies will still be crazy. It doesn't matter what you do. They'll just figure out a different angle on it. But the thrust of this bill shouldn't be something that they fight us on if they really do care about local control.
Right. Yeah. We'll see real quickly how much they really follow the same party line, I guess, on whether or not they want local control. But what is the best way for NFOA members to support this bill?
Well, I think we're kind of a broken record on that one. You know, if you send in an email and you know, do it professional, because a lot of the senators, if it gets too nasty, they just kind of hit all clear, delete, and move on. But you know, if you look like you're someone who's got their heart in the right place and you're really trying to do the right thing, you know, it has some effect. I could not have picked 4 worse individuals to have on my government committee try and work legislation through. But you know, let's back him in the corner, because Blood claimed when she was running this summer that she was pro Second Amendment. Let's hold her to that. Hunt has to come up for re-election, and Hansen's he's turned out, and so is McAllister. So I don't know, you know, how much we can do there. But all we got to do is swing one of them, and it's possible. Likely, maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see. Fortunately, being the chair of that committee, I'm going to have some ability to kind of shape that fight as we go and exec on these. But any support you guys can give helps to just move the pendulum a little bit more our direction. So all the information they gave, remember, on the senator's address, it's usually their first initial, their last name, and that's at lag.ne.gov. I'm trying to think anything else. On LB 188, isn't that going to government too? Because earlier I thought they said it was going.
No, that's going to the government affairs. Those two, yours and his, Senator Haller.
Well, I obviously will be presenting the bill on LB 236, so Hansen will be in the chair seat. But on the issue of testifiers, I'm with Bruce Bostelman on that. I have told folks, and I did it for voter ID and some of these, where you get an unending number of crazies that come in, that if we got to stay till midnight, we stay till midnight. But if you come here and you want to testify, then by golly, we're going to figure out a way to do it. Now, I agree with him, too, that there's a point, if it's just a broken record, we probably aren't making a lot of progress, and people get numbed, and pretty soon you don't make a lot of progress. But if you come in there and each one of them kind of has a little bit of a different piece of that puzzle to put together, you know, you can sway some emotions.
Yeah, definitely. We have done a good job this time around, I think, with helping to better educate all of our fellow citizens on really how to make their voice heard and make an impact. And one of the things that we recommended was obviously listening to everyone who's testifying before you, and to have multiple points that you might want to hit in your testimony, and be willing to kind of flex on the fly, if you will, to make sure you have additional things to share if someone has already, you know, hit that topic too many times. Because there is a lot to say on many of these bills. It's rich for conversation, rich for support. It shouldn't be too hard to demonstrate a different way of supporting it, so that it doesn't become a broken record.
Well, and so people don't make the trip and not understand the new guidelines that we're under with COVID, is that room only has about maybe, I don't know, 1 in every 7 chairs that we're allowed to fill. So there's not very many people allowed in the room, and everyone else has to be out in the hallway. So if he gets too carried away, it's a mess. And so don't come there thinking that it's like it was in the olden days. It's much different. You know, if you're in the hallways, or you're in the room, you're going to be required to have masks. You can take the mask off when you testify, but it's going to be a long, painful process. That's why the idea of being able to put a position letter in, or to have written testimony that you drop off that morning, it might be a better option in some ways for some that have limited time. So just remember that the situation at the Capitol is much different this year than before.
Well, I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think it's important for people to know that why they may feel strongly about showing up in person, and we as NFOA have always advocated for that. The last thing we want to do is create a big mess at the state capitol, insofar as people getting frustrated with their inability to get into the hearing, share their testimony, and then get out there in a convenient time. So for folks watching, just be aware of what you're facing when you go down to testify. If you're a warrior, come join us, because I'm going to stand there until I get my voice heard to represent NFOA and our members. For those of you who have any physical limitations, who might face discomfort, standing or sitting for a long period of time, be mindful of that. Take care of yourself first. As Senator Brewer and Senator Clements and Senator Bossman have already mentioned, there are alternative ways for making your voices heard and getting those voices on the record. So.
All right. Well, we will keep moving here. Senator Brewer, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. We understand that we kind of threw this at everybody last minute, so we do appreciate all of you who have been able to join us tonight. So thank you very much, Senator. We will go ahead and pull you back off of our screen and send you back to our virtual green room here. And all right, last but certainly not least, we have got the sponsor for LB 300, which is our other bill that takes we've given a lot of discussion to. So we've got District 1, Senator Julie Slama will be joining us here. Let's bring Senator Slama on screen. Welcome, and thank you for giving us some of your evening tonight as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
You bet. All right. And I've been trying to just kind of bounce between Trish and Keith a little bit. So, Trish, I think it is your turn. I'm just going to let you and Senator Slama have the floor here.
Awesome. It's 2A girl power time.
Amen to that.
That's awesome. So, Senator Slama, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we are here to talk about LB 300. And we'd love to hear what was the inspiration for going through the state statutes and finding the issues that we currently had with our rights to defend ourselves in our home and justification for use of force and those kinds of things.
Well, honestly, for me, it happened on a few levels, the most important of which being proud gun owners across the state reaching out to me and asking, hey, we know you're a pro-Second Amendment senator. Here's this massive issue in our state statutes regarding the convoluted language when it comes to the Castle Doctrine and the duty to retreat and some other language issues. I noticed it in going through my own process and becoming a concealed carry holder. And it's something that was discussed a bit in the body in years past. So for me, coming into this year, especially in representing District 1, which is Otoe, Johnson, Nemaha, Pawnee, and Richardson counties in the southeast corner of the state. Amazing part of the state, by the way. Come visit Southeast Nebraska. It was very important for me, not just as a pro-Second Amendment senator, but as a senator representing a pro-Second Amendment district, to bring this legislation and to have this discussion and hopefully get this bill across the finish line.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. When we think about our conversations, Keith, with LB 300, I think it's important to note that not only is our Director of Legislative Affairs a volunteer, but he's also a defense attorney. And so, full disclosure, full transparency. And in our conversation,
from my home county too.
Yep. Right down the road.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So with LB 300, just how important is it, Keith, to talk about the burden of proof, right? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, just in my work, having it the way it currently is, where it's basically on you to prove that you knew what their intent was when they came into your house. Mm-hmm. It's so counterintuitive. It just doesn't really make any sense that you're supposed to know with somebody coming into your home uninvited what their intention is. And this does put this back on the state rather than, having a rebuttable assumption that you can come back and, well, he was coming in with a knife, so yeah, I could assume he was doing something bad. Well, in this case, if they're coming in, it's going to be on the state to prove otherwise, that they actually did not have some sort of ill intent, I guess you could say. But right. As a defense attorney, trying to overcome that can be a pretty big burden. We're not mind readers. We don't know what people are thinking, but this puts the presumption back on the state where they have to show what the intent was not. I I guess, any kind of ill intent.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, Keith. When we talk about self-defense law and concealed carry classes, and we talk about, the justification for use of force up into including lethal force, and that the threat has to be an immediate, it has to reach the level of serious bodily injury, death, kidnapping, or rape, and those kinds of things. But when we're talking about our homes, right? Our homes are our castle, which is the whole castle doctrine piece of our state statutes with regards to there shouldn't be a place that we feel safer than our home. And since so many of us work, our work is secondary to that. And then when we look at, the last year's landscape, our vehicles, right? Our vehicles are often seen as an extension of our home. Like as a concealed carry permit holder, driving in my car while carrying concealed, I'm permitted to park in the school parking lot to pick up my daughter. Many of us work from our vehicles as well, right? Whether that's actually doing driving work or simply logging in and getting work done while I'm sitting in a park in my car. And so the duty to retreat, that portion of our state statute is concerning for people because they really feel like they have really no choice but to allow the threat to be, to occur, and for them to literally face death, serious bodily injury, or kidnapping or rape because of the ramifications of being seen in court as this, vilified citizen who just couldn't wait to quote unquote use a firearm to hurt someone, when really all they were doing was saying my life matters and you're threatening my life right now, and you're making those choices, and a reasonable person is going to be in fear, and they have a right to defend themselves, which is just common sense.
Absolutely. And just as an aside, I am so grateful. The Nebraska Firearm Owners Association reached out to me very early on as soon as I announced that I intended to bring this legislation, and we were able to work together. I know in the past, certain pro-Second Amendment bills were brought with all the best intentions, but lacking in execution. So I am so grateful for the NFOA for taking the time to review this legislation and being a partner for this bill.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. It's really important to know that, we're just Nebraskans. We have a formal title, this organizational name, but none of us are paid. We're just citizens, and having an opportunity to present to you what so many Nebraskans want with regards to changes in our current statutes was really, really important. And you're one of the first senators to do that in this fashion, and we commend you for that.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. So with regards, we've talked about the Judiciary Committee, right? What a wonderful, you are such a brave woman. You're amazing. Yes, having sat on the other side and listening to all the testimony, you do a great job in making sure that you understand every constituent that comes forward. So let's talk about the processes and procedures for March 3rd, and really how can people make sure that their voices are heard given the constraints that COVID have created in your committee?
Absolutely. And I will just sum up, and we've gotten a lot of helpful pieces of information from different senators about what the new protocols are, what the processes are. You've got a few different options. The first option is being able to testify in person, which I'll go into a little bit of more detail of some of the constraints there at the end. Second, as always, you can email the committee, email the senators on the committee, send letters to the committee to express your viewpoint, express why you believe the Second Amendment is important in the state of Nebraska. You can reach out to members of the committee in other ways through phone, through social media, messages to their official page. That can be helpful as well. There's a committee comment box when you throw into the Nebraska State Legislature's page the bill number that you're wanting to make a comment on. There's a little box that says submit comment on the bill. That you can make yourself heard that way. You can also drop off testimony if you show up to the committee hearing early between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning, and you see the line and you don't want to wait or risk not being heard, you can drop off testimony and have that be added to the record, which is a very, very big advancement this year. But to the point about testifying in person, what I would recommend for everyone showing up is to expect that 30-minute time restraint to be in place. I personally don't support it. We operated just fine as a committee in my first 2 years there without the limitation in place. And on average, we have far fewer testifiers on bills this year with concerns over COVID. So I do not support the constraint. But I, as a member of the executive board, so I do have a role in the leadership committee overseeing the body. We are working towards some kind of middle ground where if you show up in person and you're cut off at that half-hour time limit and you still want to make sure that your thoughts are heard on the record, have your written testimony handy. You should have 12 copies of it handy anyways, because it is a very useful tool to have that visual for later reference or for even senators to follow along while you're speaking. We're trying to get a compromise together where you can just drop that off if we run into the half-hour time limit so that you can still be heard, at least in a written format, on the record. Once we get final word on that, I assume sometime early next week, because it is something we're concerned about in advance of the March 3rd hearing, because it normally draws a pretty big crowd, which I'm proud of. We'll be able to give you a heads up beforehand, but that is the current situation we're facing right now.
Great, thank you. So LB 300, the verbiage in the state statutes, you've clarified it, you made it stronger in relation to what any reasonable person would expect their ability to defend themselves would be. If citizens have questions about LB 300 or what they can do, they can contact you at your office.
Yes, absolutely. My email address is jslama@leg.ne.gov. I love getting emails. You can also reach out by phone. My phone number is on my senator's page. I'm always excited to answer questions or get messages of support from pro-Second Amendment constituents and Nebraskans.
Great. Thank you so much. So I want to just close out with thanking all of the senators. I believe we've reached everyone. John?
We have. And with that, yes, Senator Slama, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and let you go back to the virtual green room as well. And senators, some of them have already signed out. If any of you want to just hang out in our green room and be here for the whole ride, you are more than welcome. If you need to get going, you are absolutely free to go. We won't be bringing you back on screen anymore. But, after we wrap up here and we're no longer live, if anybody has anything else they want to say or anything like that, if any of you are still here, you're absolutely welcome to hang out. But I understand you're busy. That's why we limited all the questions tonight. So all of you are welcome to go ahead and sign out if you want to. But we do appreciate all of you senators giving us a little bit of your evening. And real quick, Trish, before we move along, I know that there have been some comments out there in the chat that not everybody was happy with the format. And I just want to kind of reiterate, every senator who was here tonight, we sprung this on them this afternoon. We didn't even know that we were going to be doing this until sometime afternoon today. And Trish was able to reach out to all of these senators and ask them if they would give us a little bit of their time, which it turned into a little bit more than even we had anticipated that we were taking up of their evening. And so that's why, in the interest of fairness and time, that we decided that we would ask them the same questions, keep it fair, and then let everybody reach out individually for any other questions. So if you didn't like that, then we are sorry. We understand we can't make everybody happy all the time. We're doing the best that we can here, but it was an idea that we had to at least let every senator introduce their own bills that they had sponsored in their own words, so that everybody would know where they're coming from at least. And it was more informational than Q&A. And as time allows, throughout the next, this summer, this fall, depending on how many of these bills actually make it through committee, then we will be reaching out to some of these senators to join us, just them, and we will take as many questions as we possibly can in a format like that. But so I'm sorry, I do apologize that we didn't have an open forum tonight with the senators. We do have now an open forum with us, so feel free to ask some of those questions. I do know that some of those are out there, and as we go through some of the things now, and some of it's going to be a little bit of a reiteration of what's already been said tonight. But Drish, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over as far as the next portion here. We're going to talk about how to craft such a testimony, whether you're going to email it or submit it in writing or even give it in person. And then I'm going to go back through and find some of these questions as you're doing that.
Okay, that sounds great. So here's the thing. The following information is pulled from multiple sources looking at best practices for how citizens can make their voices heard. And so whether you are preparing to testify in person, you're preparing to drop off your testimony in the morning, or you're preparing to send a well-drafted email so that your voice can be put on the record, it's really important to do the following. Number one, you need to prepare. So read the bill. Multiple posts on our Facebook and our webpage and our emails have the link to where you can find the actual text of each bill. Don't Google a bill, because you often will find an old bill that actually was from a previous session. They like to recycle bill numbers. Understand that the underlined text in a bill is what is being proposed to be added to our state statutes, and that text that is crossed out is being proposed to be removed from our state statutes. When they do a bill, they're actually going to take a copy of the current law and edit it, unless it's such a uniquely new bill like the Second Amendment Preservation Act, where there is no statute to amend. Then it's full text, no underlines, no redacted content. When you craft your bill or your testimony, if you're going to read it in person, make sure that you practice, right? Spend some time in front of a mirror. You got 2 minutes to make your piece so that what you have to say comes out smoothly, that you haven't used any words that are difficult to pronounce. Be yourself. When I first started testifying at hearings, I was a nervous wreck. I was uncomfortable, and I do public speaking all the time, but I just felt really intimidated. Generally speaking, you aren't going to get any questions after your testimony. They're going to thank you and you can move on. So it's important that you prepare some key points that you want to make. Why are you for? Why are you against the bill, right? You want it to be personalized if you can. Talk about how the bill affects you or your family or your community. Those personal stories, I hate the word narrative, I'm not going to use that word, but those personal stories about how a bill impacts you is really what resonates with senators, and honestly pulling on heartstrings, right? The anti-gun movement is very much about emotional hyperbole. But I'll tell you, when you hear stories about men and women who have had to defend themselves from a violent criminal attack, those stories are true stories and they're not emotional hyperbole. But if you've ever been to a hearing, especially like when Concealed Carry Act was getting passed, everyone who was against it thought there was going to be blood in the streets because we're just a bunch of bloodthirsty people, or putting the gun in our hands makes us bloodthirsty. If there are statistics that you want to present, make sure you have where those statistics came from, and make sure you use a credible source. Not all of those who testify against gun laws do a good job with that, and you need to be able to prove your statistics. When you arrive at the hearing, there's going to be a sign-in sheet. You're going to put your name, you're going to put for or against, and you're going to indicate whether you're going to testify or not. Obviously, we're going to be spread out. Most of us are going to be in the hallway, especially March 3rd. And of course, we're limited to whatever 30 minutes is. I don't know if that's just the for and or against, or is it for all testimony. So it might be really likely that very few of us are actually going to get to sit in the chair and present our testimony. But my voice isn't any more important than your voice. So if you get there before me and you get to testify, I hope you represent us well. To the point that Senator Brewer had, make sure you listen to the testifiers who testified before you. If only 5 of us can testify for the Second Amendment Preservation Act or constitutional carry at the county level or whatever bill you're testifying for, the last thing you want to do is sound like a repeat of the previous testifier. So that's why you want to have 5 or 6 different points available that you can use, so that if somebody already hit on it, you can change and testify with a different point of view. You're going to start your testimony by sitting down at the chair. You're going to give them your first name and your last name. You're going to spell your first name and last name. And if one of your, or if a senator, if your senator happens to be on the committee, it always helps to mention that you are a constituent from their district. Thank them for attending and listening. State your position on the bill. If you want to, you can thank the senator who sponsored it and the co-sponsor, but just make sure you make your key points. Get those out. Don't worry about being perfect or eloquent. It's more about getting your voice on the record. At the end, say thank you. You might want to pause in case they have questions. Then that committee chair is going to thank you, and you can move on. For the next testifier. If you want, you can move to your original seat, or you can, vacate the building, whichever you prefer.
All right. So real quick, I've got a couple questions that I have found, and I'm trying to go through these and find the ones that are relevant here. Bill over on Facebook wanted to know what measures are in place with regards to COVID restrictions and things like that. We've talked about this a little bit. Do Trish or Keith, do either of you know? Obviously, there's still a mask mandate in Lincoln, so that we will all still have to wear our masks when we're inside the building. Clearly, they've changed the format, which was announced here several weeks back, as far as the in-person testimony that we've talked about a little bit here. Are there any other anything else, I guess, that people need to know who are planning to come to the Capitol building, either February 24th or March 3rd, regarding COVID restrictions?
No, just really understanding that they're going to enforce social distancing. We're going to probably be wrapped around the halls. Like I said, there's probably going to be limited seating if you're not in there early. So make sure that you're prepared for that. I wouldn't bring a folding chair with you, but I wish I could. That'd be much more comfortable. So just wear good shoes.
Yeah, definitely wear comfortable shoes. Now, this is a question that I think is very, very relevant. And Trish, you're going to understand what I'm about to ask you here too, but I'm going to put this question. Actually, you know what? Since I lost some of these, I wrote them down, but I can't put them on the screen. Just in the interest of fairness, I don't want to just pick and choose what goes on the screen. So we do have, where did this just go? Ed over on the Facebook side wants to know, can a citizen carry the Gadsden flag inside the halls of the Capitol? Now, when you answer that, I think that we just need to briefly discuss just kind of what do you want to call it? The code of conduct a little bit. We did make a post about this on the Facebook page. I think it was yesterday, but would you just go over that just a little bit and then address the question about the Gadsden flag as well?
Well, for instance, we had a Second Amendment rally a few years ago out in the state capitol. It was just Pro 2A Day, basically, and we had the Gadsden, and we had the American flag, we had the Nebraska flag. We had members with posters and signs, and we were celebrating our rights and freedoms under the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. It was a great day. Absolutely. Can someone carry a flag through the halls of the unicameral? Sure, they can. Can you enter the committee hearing with any sign or flag? No, you can't. So the committee, each committee creates its own rules for decorum, if you will. And so there aren't any ways for you to bring that flag into the hearing. But if you wanted to just walk around the state capitol with that flag, you could. What John is talking about is, we had some an amazing turnout last year. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people came to the state capitol to battle a ridiculous bill that was an attempt at a weak assault weapons ban, all under the name of suicide prevention. And we had been spun up because we had just fought and won the bill that was attempting to bring red flag laws to Nebraska. So the people were awake, right?
Mhm.
And so we had tons of people show up. And it's a challenge. We have people from all walks of life who are gun owners. We have every race, every religion, every hairstyle, every clothing preference, what have you. And like we all know, the media loves to have what I call clickbait, whether it's a headline or a photograph. And so we had a young man, and he's Pro 2A, and he had his helmet on, and he had his AR, and he had his Hawaiian shirt on, and he came to testify, right? He's expressing and exercising his rights, and he was legally able to do so. And when he was interviewed by the media, he did a pretty good job in stating his case. The challenge was, we all know how the media twists and besmirches the 2A community to the extent that pretty much even if we did the best thing on the planet, they'd have a way to make us look ignorant and make us look bloodthirsty and make us look, bad. I'll just be, blunt. So you really have to ask yourself, in the end, what is the outcome we want? For me, I'm going to dress professionally because that's what I want the gun owner to be seen as. A gun owner is really anyone in this country. We all don't look alike. We all don't dress alike. So it's really up to you. I'm not going to dictate to anyone. That's not my position, nor is it the position of NFOA to say don't do something.
Right.
All we ask is that you be legal at all times. And remember, what's the outcome you seek? Are you trying to get attention, or are you trying to get good legislation passed and bad legislation stopped? You got to ask yourself that question.
Yep. So yeah, just remember, everybody who's listening to us right now, that if you are coming to be part of NFOA Day, then you're coming to represent not only NFOA, you're coming to represent all Nebraska gun owners. So please, 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 all I'm going to say, I would never tell anybody what to do. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm not saying you can't do something. Please represent Nebraska's gun owners in a positive light. That's all I'm going to say there too. So we're not going to keep whipping that dead horse. We've talked about that. All right. And I don't know that I have a whole lot of other questions. I know I've missed some of these things. I was trying to keep up as
there were a couple of good
they're
questions.
rolling through. Did you have any that you wrote down? Go ahead. And if you've got a couple there.
Some folks were commenting, like, why in the heck is Omaha and Lincoln in such control over the state of Nebraska, especially with regards to gun rights?
Well, they want to be more in control. They're trying to redistrict to give them more control now. So
right.
Yeah.
So
that too.
Here's one of the things that, I learned way more about civics and government and how the process really works by becoming a member of NFOA and then joining the board. I was blissfully unaware of just kind of how messy and how under the table politics are. So in Nebraska, we don't have what's called state preemption. State preemption is a rule of law that only the state can put forward any rules or regulations with regards to firearms, which this then allows Lincoln and Omaha, because of their size, to have all these ordinances that basically create, landmines for gun owners to walk gingerly through to make sure they're not breaking any ordinances. Until we get state preemption passed, we're going to have to deal with the Lincoln-Omaha issue. The other issue, which Keith alluded to, was the redistricting. The population sizes of Lincoln and Omaha are where the population is. And we don't have people in Omaha or Lincoln who are willing to run for state legislature. It's a job that doesn't pay much. It's $12,000 a year, and you get a lot of crap. But until we get people who are willing to stand up and truly represent Nebraskans in those cities and districts, we're going to keep getting the people like McAllister and Moorfeld and Hunt, folks that make me embarrassed to be in this state when we hear them speak about their pieces of legislation they want to put forward. So as far as personal attendance, the most important day, well, here's what I think. You have the Second Amendment Preservation Act. For me, that is my personal number one bill. We're also having the hearing in the Government Military Affairs or Government Military and Veterans Affairs Committee, which is a committee that has better rules insofar as testimony and making a difference. If we can get the Second Amendment Preservation Act passed out of committee and then heard on the floor, we will have one singular piece of legislation that we can use going forward to keep people in office that voted for it and to kick people out of office that voted against it. When you look at Nebraska as a sovereign state with our own constitution, does someone actually take their oath of office seriously? Whether you're a gun owner or not, the whole idea of keeping illegal executive orders and unconstitutional laws being enforced in our state probably crosses multiple areas of interest for conservatives and Democrats and libertarians and what have you. So my wish would be that most people show up on February 24th. The other benefit is the hearings start at 1:30, and there's really only two bills being heard that matter, both Senator Brewer's and Senator Holleran's. But NFOA is going to be there both days, both the 24th of February and March 3rd, to make your voices heard.
Yep, I really wish that I could make it this Wednesday on the 24th. I cannot, but I do plan on being there on March 3rd as well. So can't wait to meet a bunch of our members. Even if we don't all get in to testify, we're still going to have just our presence alone is gonna have a voice, and that goes a long way in the court of public opinion too. Part of, I think that what I see in the issues as far as Lincoln and Omaha kind of taking over running the state, that goes back to what I've always said and what we talked about a little bit last week as well on our online town hall. We all need to have these conversations. We need to make being a gun owner mainstream. And in most of Nebraska, it really is. You get outside of Lincoln and Omaha, and when you say you own guns, you don't get funny looks here in Nebraska. We're used to people that own guns here in most of the state. And it's just normal. And it's to the point where a lot of people, I think, just kind of take it for granted. And that's one thing that we can't do. But we need to make sure that even in Lincoln, even in Omaha, gun ownership is normal. It's common. It's mainstream. It's not something that you have to hide or be closeted over. It's I don't want to make light of the LGBTQ movement and anybody in that community, but really there's a lot of parallels with in a lot of areas where we're kind of made to feel like we need to hide the fact that we have guns and we need to be ashamed of it. And that's not the case. We need to be out. We need to be loud and proud that we're gun owners, that we're not breaking laws. We're law-abiding citizens who happen to own guns for all legal purposes. And that's what we want to portray. But in order to make this mainstream, that means that we've got to have these conversations. We've got to show not only the people who are already in office that it's okay to be pro 2A, but if they're not pro 2A, then we need to find people who are to replace them. So that's why we have primary elections. If you don't like the candidate who is in your party, then primary him. If you don't like either one of the candidates, find somebody better to run or run yourself. So I know that's not easy. To run as a state senator, you've got to have financial backing. You've got to have flexibility, I should say, with your job, with your income. But we really do need better options. We need better offerings. Make sure that the people that we're sending into the unicameral have our best interests in mind as Nebraskans.
Right. And you don't have to start off at state senator.
Right.
Run for your local school board, run for your city council. There's all these different county positions you can run for. And the thing is the more you're in the know, the more connections you make, and the more you can see whether you have what it takes to truly represent other Nebraskans, at the senator level. A long time ago, I used to think that those who were elected had some like special power or special characteristic about themselves that I really needed to hold them sort of on a pedestal. Having worked at the state capitol for as long as I have as a volunteer for NFOA, these folks put their pants on the same way we do. They tie their shoes the same way we do, which for me right now is difficult because of COVID. I've gained some weight. So I breathe heavily when I tie my shoes, but they do too. And so don't let that intimidate you. We have some really, really normal people who are elected to positions of power, and they make a huge difference because they're humble, because they remember their roots, and they're not politicians. They're just people.
Yep, exactly. And again, we can't stress enough that these senators work for us. And I don't remember now which senator, I lost track who said it, who said that we were the first house and they were the second house, really.
Senator Halloran, yeah.
Okay, so that's the attitude that I want to see in every senator in that building. I want them to understand that they work for us, that we're the first house, they're the second house, and they really are servants of their districts. Mm-hmm. And if we don't send somebody to the unicameral with that attitude, then we really kind of deserve what we get, don't we?
Yeah. And to that end, I'll tell you this. 2 years ago, whenever Senator Carol Blood was first elected, there were a couple bills, and she was on the committee for the judiciary. And some of our members got some responses from her that were absolutely shocking. She was so dismissive and rude and condescending, and we didn't do it then, but I'm going to do it now. If you get a message from your elected senator that is disrespectful, please share that with NFOA. We're no longer going to play the super, super, super nice folks. When people need to be held accountable, we're going to put them on blast. If they're not voting the right way, we're putting them on blast. If they're being disrespectful to our members, we're going to put them on blast. People need to know how these people are behaving and what they actually think, because you'd be shocked and surprised about how ill prepared they really are in representing your voice.
Exactly. And as a 501c4 organization, there are things that we can and can't do. As we currently sit, we can't endorse a candidate. We can't necessarily say who to vote for, or we can have these kind of examples where we say, hey, we liked this attitude, or we liked what this senator did. We didn't like what this senator did. Those things are okay to talk about, but we do have some things hopefully that are we can't really discuss, but things yet to come where hopefully one day we will be able to actually endorse candidates, and we'll have hopefully an avenue coming sooner than later to do such a thing. Yeah. So everybody just stay tuned. I hate when there's like some teasers, but I do want to throw that little teaser out there that we're not how do I want to say this? We've only just begun. Right.
Exactly. Now I have the song in my head, John. Thank you.
Every Happy Gilmore movie fan out there, I think, has that in their head. So,
yeah.
All right. One more question, and I guess more of a comment that I do want to kind of address too real quick. Over on the Facebook side, Joe says the problem is we have a lot of sheriffs that are not Pro 2A or constitutional sheriffs. So we keep that on the down low, because you don't want to put a target on your back if you're vocal. And I think he means about being a gun owner. But again, sheriff is an elected position. And if you don't have a good sheriff, then they really are unique in within the hierarchy of different law enforcement agencies. Sheriff stands apart from every other law enforcement agency that you deal with, and that has a jurisdiction where you live. So the sheriff can be voted out very, very easily. if you get somebody to run against them who is a constitutionalist or who is more pro 2A. So it's no different than a senator or a county commissioner. These people, even the county sheriff, they work for you, they serve you. And if you don't like the way that they're doing their job, you can replace them with somebody who will do the job that you expect them to do. So I just wanted to throw that out there about county sheriff. It's different than police chief. It's different than state patrol captain. It's different than FBI or ATF or any of those other agencies. County sheriff is completely different. And they are, if you have a good constitutionalist for a sheriff, they really are one of our last lines of defense against unconstitutional laws. They are supreme in their county. They are the chief law enforcement officers too. So that's really cool.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to point out there was a Facebook comment from Ed. He is brave enough to strike up a dialogue with Senator Blood again. I commend you, sir. Congratulations. Do the good job, because we need folks to not give up on these senators. Even if we feel that there's just no chance in heck that they can vote our way, they need to know that they are in fact voting the wrong way insofar as the way Nebraskans want them to vote, and that we're constantly going to supervise them and hold them accountable. So Ed, great job with that.
All right. So at this point, we've kind of gone longer than what I had kind of anticipated us going, but that's okay, because we did have some great stuff since we had some extra guests here tonight. So Trish, Keith, do either of you have anything else that we need to cover before we wrap things up tonight?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think it was pretty nice having the senators on. That's not something where, organization generally has 4 or 5 senators show up for a town hall at the last minute. So
yeah, especially when it was less than
really
6 hours ago that they all got invited.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, again, we just want to appreciate or show our appreciation to everybody who joined us tonight. And who also those of you that kept it lively on Facebook and YouTube, both, with your comments and your questions. If we didn't get to your question or mention your comment, I'm sorry. They're coming through so fast between the two that it's really hard to keep everything on the screen here, and I can only scroll so far before they drop off and I can't get to them. So I do apologize. I didn't intentionally slight anybody or intentionally ignore anybody's comment. If you're catching this later on the replay, then you can't leave your comments live, but you can still comment or ask any questions, and we'll try to do our best to field those questions in the future. So you can comment on this anytime you want to. We do welcome those comments. We like to know what our membership has to say. And I have seen several different people throughout the night who have just asked about how they can join. They're not currently members. They want to help. They want to make their voices heard, and they want to help us help them. So if you want to join, please go to nebraskafirearms.org and become a member. It's free to join. It's always going to be free to be a member. You can be an associate member even if you don't live here. So we're not exclusive only to Nebraskans, but you don't get to have full member privileges like voting for the very cool board members or things like that unless you do live in the state of Nebraska. But also, a lot of people, I think, are members and don't realize that we have an online community. So you can access that from nebraskafirearms.org as well. It's a separate website. They're linked, but it takes you to a separate website. So you have to have a new login. You have to make a new login to be part of that online community forum. But the cool thing about that forum is we don't censor free speech on that. I mean, we have to keep things legal. And again, recognize that we do have restrictions as a 501c4 organization. But as far as things that you want to discuss, we do our best to only keep us out of trouble. We don't shush people. We don't silence people. It's not like some of those other social media sites. There's a section in there with classifieds. If you've got a firearm you want to sell or an accessory or if you've actually got ammo that you want to part with. It won't last long if you post it there, I promise. But there are places that you can do that and just have general discussions about all of those things that are important to you, no matter what that is, whether you're a hunter or a recreational shooter or a collector, whatever it is, whatever you're into, there's a board there for you. So go check that out as well. And then I did have something real quick that I wanted to mention. We haven't really commented on it tonight. Charles over on YouTube wants to know, isn't there a thing at 88 Tactical coming up? And I believe there's a workshop that we should mention before we go.
Yeah, matter of fact, 88 Tactical is hosting the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association at 7 p.m. on March 1st. If you want to have an opportunity to delve a little deeper into each of the bills, know how to craft your written and or in-person testimony, we're having a legislative workshop at 88 Tactical, which is right off Interstate I-80. There is no cost to attend. We do have a link to Eventbrite on our Facebook page for you to register in advance, just so we can know how many folks are coming, so we can prepare handouts and make copies and what have you. But it's a great opportunity for you to meet one-on-one with NFOA members who are involved in the legislative affairs portion of, which is the majority of what we do, and learn about these bills and how you can make a difference.
And then is there a link that I can grab somewhere and post over here on the YouTube side as well for all the folks who don't do Facebook?
Yeah, let me go ahead and bring that up for you real quick.
So we'll get that done here before we take off. While Trish is doing that, Keith, do you have any closing thoughts, final words that you want to kick in there?
Just that we need to be vocal. I mean, that's the number one thing. If the senators think nobody's out there supporting something, they're just going to let it go. It will make no difference to them if, everybody in the state supports something. If they don't hear about it, they don't know about it.
Yep. The squeaky wheel is always the one that gets the grease, right? So we've got almost 10,000 members now within our organization, and with your help and sharing these videos and just kind of getting the discussion out there, hopefully we can get more than that. So let me do that real quick. Whoops. Well, it's not what I wanted. Anyway, I'll get that over in the YouTube side when I'm not wasting everybody's time. So with that, again, we just want to thank you. Please go and become a member of Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. Go to nebraskafirearms.org in order to do so. And then I did mention last week, and I'm going to mention it real quick again tonight. If I did say that there will never be any membership dues, that is true. If you do want to send money, we will take it. It doesn't go to us. It doesn't go to our president. It doesn't go to any of the board of directors or any volunteer within the organization. It goes directly back into the cause. Some of these events that we do, they're not cheap, and we'll continue to do them as much as we can. And we've got a few things coming up throughout the year that we're hoping to get done that we've never done before. So those are going to be fun as we can let that information out. I can't wait to make some of these announcements. But if anybody does want to help us out, we do appreciate you parting with your hard-earned dollars. So there's a donate button also on nebraskafirearms.org. And if you do that, we very much appreciate it. Not asking for it, but if anybody wants to know, definitely is there. So, all right, with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And let me can't get it to do it.
There's a workshop.
There's the workshop.
What?
I can get it on the screen, but I can't get it to copy and paste. So I will just I'll get that as a comment. Tell you what I'll do. I'll make it in the comment section, not the live chat, but the actual video comments on the YouTube video. So when you go back in and look at the video comments that weren't in the live chat that are there forever, then you will be able to see that and go to that Eventbrite website so that you can register and be part of that workshop. So that's what we're going to do. That way
Perfect.
nobody has to wait for me to figure this out. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of all the senators that we had, Senator Haller and Brewer, Senator Clements, Senator Slama, Senator Bosselman, on behalf of Keith and Trish and myself, the director of media for NFOA, thank all of you. We can't do this without you. NFOA isn't us. NFOA is you. And that's, I can't stress that enough, that we're nothing without you guys. So you are the gun lobby. We are the gun lobby. We're all in this together. Thank you very much. God bless you. And we hope to see as many of you as we possibly can on Wednesday the 24th and next Wednesday the 3rd as well.